What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Level 11. So, as promised, I wanted to do something a little different today, and I'm going to be reacting to a video, and I thought, you know, what better channel to do a video reaction to than my favorite channel, Spawnwave. Let's get right into it, as I am short on time.
I want you to take a look at this picture right here. This is Halo for the Game Boy playing on a GameCube that's then playing on the PlayStation TV. I've managed to pretty much bring all three platform holders together for this video, and something that I think is really cool because we used to have this back in the day. Not necessarily all three platform holders working together for a Game Boy game, but we used to have console versions of games that had to be basically recreated to fit on a Game Boy or a Game Boy Advance or on the Game Gear. It was really cool at times to see what would come out of that. It wasn't always good. In fact, most times it was actually bad, but you'd occasionally get a game that absolutely shocked you with what it ended up being versus what you were expecting. Today, though, we're taking a look at a Demake, one that's been in the works for a while and recently had, I'd say, a pretty big update, and that's for Halo Combat Devolved. It's a Game Boy game that is being recreated in Game Boy Studio, or GB Studio.
That's an awesome name, Combat Devolved. Very, it makes perfect sense. I don't even have to explain it.
And today I wanted to talk about my time with it because I did play through the first two levels that have been released, and I gotta say I'm really looking forward to the rest of it. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and we'll start today with this video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Cook Unity.
We're gonna skip the sponsor.
Of Cook Unity meals to try them out for yourself. Thanks to Cook Unity for sponsoring today's video. So Halo Combat Devolved is something that you can download and play right now, which you can use it in an emulator. You can actually play it on real hardware, so on a Game Boy, if you have one of those flash cartridges, you can drop it on an SD card, pop it in there. You can also play it on any of the different emulator handhelds, or you can play it directly in the browser. In fact, on the main page that I'll link down below in the description, you just click Run Game and you can play it right there. They have the controls laid out.
Hold on a sec. Do you guys see that really quick? It opened with the Bungie and 343 Industries logos.
You just click Run Game and you can play it.
And then it says, had nothing to do with the making of this game. Please support the original creators of the Halo universe.
Right there, they have all the controls laid out below that. Today, I'm going to be playing it on the GameCube, so I can just capture footage here and stuff, but it's still really funny to be able to play Halo, obviously, on the GameCube, not necessarily the Xbox version, but still, it's fun. Anyway, let's take a look at Halo Combat Devolved here, and again, the idea is they are going to follow the plot line of Halo down to each individual level that's outlined under the Missions tab, but doing it on the Game Boy. So when you first start it up, you do have what is a somewhat familiar-ish looking title screen: Campaign, Continue, and Missions. This does indeed have like save and quit, so you have checkpoints throughout the game. So if you have to, say, put the Game Boy down for a bit, you at least have enough checkpoints, I would say, so that you don't lose too much progress if you have to shut it off in the middle of the game itself. The missions, you do have like hard checkpoints between each level, basically, and right now they have two different levels. And the reason I wanted to check this out is because Halo is one of my favorite levels of all time in all of video games, which we'll get to here in a bit. But first, when you start at the game here at the title screen, you do have, well, a very familiar theme playing, just one that's a bit more akin to the Game Boy hardware. I noticed that theme plays a lot throughout these first couple of levels, but still, I think it is really cool. It's very close to the original, at least has the same spirit, and again, working into the limited hardware of the Game Boy. I think they did a pretty good job here. But you start up the game, and it starts up as you would expect. At the Pillar of Autumn, you wake up as Master Chief, and, well,
they got the art direction like pretty on spot. Like that really does look like the Mark V. Is that the Mark V? I think that's the Mark V.
you're under attack immediately. So as you set out here, I mean, visually speaking, it's the Game Boy Color, so they are pulling from different color palettes that you would get out of that Game Boy Color hardware, as opposed to the monochromatic, just regular DMG Game Boy. And they do take advantage of the additional color palettes here pretty much throughout, but more so in the second level, that again we'll look at here soon. But when you start up, you do have 4 directional movements, so it is something that I think I would like to see them move to where you can move diagonally as well as shoot diagonally, because you do feel fairly limited when moving around and engaging in combat. But again, this is kind of like the early stages of it here with the first 2 levels. Still though, when you then take off, you have sort of this isometric view, and as you go around, you'll see different scripted battles happening between the Covenant and Marines, and it is trying to recreate that initial pathway that you have to get to the command deck so that you can meet with Keys and of course Cortana. It didn't necessarily have the same tension or danger of the Halo on the Xbox. Obviously that was built out a bit more in terms of 3D and trying to make it look somewhat more cinematic as you're running past these battles where it looks like the Marines are getting beaten down. It was still fun to at least try to have that recreated there. But when you do get Cortana, you will also get your first weapon, which is the pistol. The pistol in Halo 1 is incredibly powerful, and it's still that powerful here. So you'll have 2 main weapons as you go through this game. You'll have a pistol and you'll have an assault rifle. This is pretty standard stuff, but it doesn't seem like it's really worth ever using the assault rifle. At least I didn't find any real reason to use it. The pistol has a 50% chance of getting a headshot every time you fire it, which to me feels like every other time, yes. I mean, it does seem like I was killing things way faster than the pistol, even though the assault rifle fired off twice as many bullets at a time. But the pistol it seemed to wipe things out in 2 or 3 hits. Sometimes it was just one-shot things, like immediately. So
seems like a pretty faithful adaptation so far. I'm not seeing what the issue is.
Yeah, I basically used the pistol just about the whole way through this first level, which did feel like it went on a little too long, and I did also feel like I could have used a map for this one as well as the second level, so maybe that's something that you look into, as there is still room on, say, the pause menu, which...
Oh, that's a good point.
When you do that...
I was just thinking of, like, well, how are they going to manage to have a map on top of everything going on here on a Game Boy Color? Like, good luck with that. But, yeah, a pause menu, I guess, could make something work.
Just have a couple of selections here and a blue screen. Feels like there is some additional work that could be done here just to convey more information. I think it'd be fun to have, like, the image of the weapon you have equipped, which you switch between them to select, and if they decide to go to you having a limited amount of ammo, you have the amount you have in your clip at the time, and if you need to reload or not at the bottom.
I also wonder if they could add melee weapons or not, and I wonder if they'll introduce grenades at the end of the first level like they did, you know, in the base game.
You press on to the escape pod, and they have these fun little images that are kind of in the place, I assume, of the...
I feel like that would have been mentioned if that were the case by now, but I assume not. I don't know. We'll see. I wonder if vehicles are going to work.
Cutscenes where it'll have this Game Boy looking version of Master Chief there set up as he's then plunging to Halo. And this is the level, this is one of my favorite levels of all time in gaming, and I think it's just kind of that you had to be there moment. So the whole...
I get it. That well, I mean, the whole game in general, to be honest, but it's actually, I mean, I think I was only 8 years old when Halo 1 came out on the original Xbox. I got to play it at my friend's place, and that level, it's kind of... At that age, I wasn't very good at remembering where I had and had not already been, I guess. So I don't know about that level specifically for me, but I get where John's coming from if he were, you know, if I were his age at that time. Because I think he's got, like, you know, a good 7 years on me or something like that. He's around Adam's age. Anyway.
Whole time in Halo Combat Evolved.
I mean, I get it for the game. The game, if you were there when this game first came out, magnificent. Just the best. The best. But anyway.
You're going through corridors and stuff in the ship, and it feels very similar to what you'd expect from a game like this. And remember, this is back in 2001. We had shooters, sure, but this was that next level for many, many people on consoles and shooters. And when things opened up and you got out of that, well, you crash landed on the Halo, but it sort of faded in, and you looked around and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't like sectioned off anymore. You're not like hallways, corridors. It felt very open and very, like, alive. It's kind of hard to describe, but there was that moment where you look around and go, oh, wait, this is I can go in all different directions here. And it's like a semi-open world style setup there for that Halo level. And in fact, they've kind of been able to recreate that here with the Game Boy, which does feel fairly impressive. And as I was going through, which you have a major shift to where instead of it being kind of like this gray and dark palette in the Pillar of Autumn, it's opened up and it's like green and blue, which has kind of its own biome there. But as you're going through, you're still fighting Covenant, which mostly are elites, grunts, and then they also introduce jackals, which obviously have shields, and when you only can fire in 4 directions and it's a 2D plane, those shields are fairly powerful because they'll block everything. You have to go around them and just kind of blast them a few times, then they'll get wiped out. And those are the main 3 enemies you'll be fighting here at this time. Seems like they'll be adding more in as you figured going forward here. But as I'm going through, you do find different structures and monuments and stuff that you'll be fighting on top of. But then there's this moment where they go, okay, we're bringing the Warthog in. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, they're really going to do that. They do. You get in a Warthog, and you drive around in this combat devolved Game Boy recreation of Halo.
I wonder if it's a sequenced off thing.
And it's actually a lot of fun. Well, okay, so it is just a faster sprite, technically. Like, there's no, like, impressive animations on it or anything.
Oh, never mind.
But still, it was a really fun feeling to jump in the Warthog and just start blasting around in this game. And you also have a gunner, so if you get close to an enemy, it'll just start, like, annihilating them. And this is just done by a person with GB Studios. So when I'm seeing this happen, and then there are these creative moments where, so as I mentioned, you have...
That's actually pretty cool. This, I'm interested in this. What's going on here?
Well, there's also the sniper rifle, but that actually triggers a minigame to where you are zoomed in and you're moving this reticule around. I've seen this in other Game Boy games. I'm thinking of Perfect Dark had something like this, where you move a cursor around and you just fire at enemies that'll sort of pop out of cover. And that's basically a little mini game you go through, and when completed, you'll save those Marines. So your main objective is to drive around and find Marines that are stuck in different areas and then call in dropships to pick them up, to rescue them. And there are a few times where you find, for example, you find sniper rifles near them, and you have to then take out enemies to save those Marines and basically give them cover fire. Others, you'll just be taking down different Covenant that are sort of in the area to free the Marines that are stuck inside of different buildings. The Warthog also has this thing where it can jump over bodies of water.
That's pretty cool. So it's really interesting seeing how the developers go about these like creative ways to solve certain situations, like that sniper rifle mini game. Sometimes the story will say, okay, you either have to snipe in this sequence, kind of like in the actual game, or you have to have close range combat with the sniper, or not the sniper, the assault rifle or the pistol. And for that, it's just that top-down basic, like, 4 directions kind of deal or whatever. And then you have the sniper stuff, and then you got the Warthog and being able to do these weird jumps. It's really cool. This is really cool. I'm very interested to see the rest of this come out.
Or cliffs if there are certain tracks. So there is like this extra movement ability that's added that if you have the Warthog with you, you can get to, whereas if you're on foot, you wouldn't be able to. So that's a fun little wrinkle thrown in there. There are, I think, many things that can be added here. For example, grenades being a big one. I think just additional weapons like a plasma rifle or needler, and just Covenant weapons.
So grenades are not a thing. That's what he was just saying there. I wish grenades were a part of this as well as Covenant weapons. Okay, well, it makes sense. I didn't see any in the gameplay.
Oh, and while you do have shield and health that adds some elements of strategy to combat, I think there's just so much more that can be done here. As I mentioned, being able to move diagonally would actually be a big one. But also melee, I think having that ability to be able to just literally punch stuff as Master Chief, even if it's like a quick thing where you press a button and Chief basically lunges forward a tile and then back, just something like that I think would be really cool, especially if you get to a point where you have limited ammo in the game and you have to sort of hunt for ammunition or different Covenant energy weapons. Being able to just get that last hit.
What I'm wondering is, like, why do this for the Game Boy Color? Why not make a version of Halo Combat Evolved for, like, I don't know, the Nintendo Wii? Like, add the motion controls, make it kind of look and feel a little bit more Metroid Prime-y when it comes to just the gunplay, but just get it running on the Wii. I don't know. I think that would be a more cool thing to see and play, to be honest, than this. I mean, it's cool to see this. I think it's more cool to see this. But I think it'd be more cool to play Halo 1 on a Nintendo Wii, or at least with a Wii remote and a nunchuck, you know?
An enemy with a melee attack, I think, would add a lot to this game. That said, I don't want to take anything away from Sofa Swordsman and what they've been able to accomplish here, because this is just awesome to see, and I think it's something people should just give it a shot, see what you think, and if you have the ability to play it on actual hardware, whether it's a Game Boy player or on a Game Boy or Game Boy Advance, try it out there, because it does kind of feel like something that would have legitimately released back then from a development studio, and this is being done by one person just in their free time. So really, really cool stuff. Again, I'll link to it down below in the description if you would like to check it out, and I fully recommend you doing that. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.
So, that's pretty cool, but again, like I just said, I think a Wii version of Halo 1 would be... I think that would be sick. I think that'd be super cool. So I will link to this video in the description below, so you guys can check that out. You know, John Spawnwave, awesome channel, my favorite channel to watch. But you should also subscribe here and watch my stuff as well. So with that in mind, thank you everyone for doing so, liking, subscribing, sharing, and all that good stuff. And we will see you all next time. Until then, keep leveling up, everyone, and take care.